In 2012, I was clinically dead on March the 6th. Clinically dead for 23 minutes. I woke up in Ipswich Hospital 36 hours later. I was paralysed from my neck down. I was told I'll never walk again. In the next 45 minutes, I moved every limb in my body except for my right hand leg. Okay, only my right hand leg was still limping. I got up and walked out when my son walked in, put my arms around his shoulders and walked out of the hospital. I limped on my leg for 3.5 years. And 3.5 years later, I was called in for a special meeting. A very special meeting for 6 hours. And what I was told in that 6 hours was so far beyond the mind that it's so hard to deal with. And the mind doesn't know. The mind has no idea. I went through a massive transformation I cannot even begin to explain in a way you'd really understand, because the mind cannot understand. A massive transformation, right, with solid evidence in DNA. In that 3.5 years, I went through a transformation in DNA with solid evidence. I had 3 stents fitted after a major heart attack. I was supposed to take 5 medications for the rest of my life and stop smoking, but I didn't. I had a major stroke in 2012, clinically dead for 23 minutes. Woke up 36 hours later, paralysed from my neck down. When I got up and walked out, the doctors thought it must have been a misdiagnosis, and of course, I believe that too. But then, what happens in this moment is one of the most incredible miracles you would never believe in. I'm sitting down and being told about my own history for 34 years and 16 years of DNA studies done, or 15 years since 2001. They said my DNA in 2008 changed every single thing in their systems. One of only a few people in my DNA and mental health research in prison for 10 years. I didn't know. I had no idea what I was being told. The biggest think tank in the world, in the Star Chamber inquiry, the Gatekeeper report. I'm the gatekeeper and the most powerful mastermind they've ever dealt with on 7 reports that I can do things no one else can do. I didn't even know. I had no idea. I thought these people must be talking out of school. This is crazy stuff. They said the 2 most powerful miracles on earth that they've got recorded, including bring someone back to life, who wrote the most powerful poem in 2003, the one and only, #1 worldwide for 8 months. Kirsty Ashley died 4 times, okay? She died at home after a drug overdose and was narcotic taken to hospital in 1992 in Ipswich Hospital, Kirsty Ashley. When she was taken to hospital, she was given 0% chance of living, but they worked on her frantically to pump her stomach with a drug overdose enough to kill over 50 people. She flatlined a second time in front of 7 doctors and nurses working on her frantically, including CCTV. In that moment, when she flatlined, her body lifted 8 inches off the bed from one end to the other, like a massive electrical shock. She came back to life, and then they continued to work on her frantically. But you should have been in that room, because this didn't happen once or twice, it happened 3 times. And she lives to tell the story and write the poem. But you should have seen the look on their faces. And myself. This was an unbelievable miracle. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. This happened automatically, without any device put near her. No narcane, only the first time. This was unbelievable, to sit in that room and then watch their faces after, when she was stable. To see the way they were looking around the room, and I was lost. I was totally lost. But this is the most powerful miracle recorded with evidence, that she came back to life 3 times in a massive miracle with some sort of divine intervention. And I had no idea. But when she wrote the poem in 2003, she said, "I'm the one and only." #1 worldwide for 8 months, a very powerful poem. When she was interviewed because of this kind of miracle about the poem, they told me that she said, I had the power to take her life away and give it back. I thought, what are you talking about? She said I was responsible, right, for bringing her back to life 3 times. That was her words, not mine. In 1989, the Kempsey bus accident, my brother was in the Kempsey bus accident and 20 people died in the bus heading south. One of the people died was his wife, my sister-in-law. This was the road accident that stopped Australia in 1989, on the 22nd December 1989. My brother was the most critical injured, right, and he was in a coma for 3.5 weeks under Dr. Wright at the PA hospital. And Dr. Wright is one of the biggest surgeons in the world that owns his own ward. He was critically injured and given 5% chance of living. After 3.5 weeks in a coma, he flatlined for a moment and came out of the coma and was in a ward next door, critically injured. Over the next 10 days, Dr. Wright and the Queensland mental health psychiatrist was there watching this. They wrote a massive article in the paper, a miracle. My brother couldn't remember the accident and didn't know anyone on the bus. But over the next 10 days, something happened in that room. We were there many times. And they were watching this like a hawk. My brother said goodbye to 19 people, except for the driver who was responsible for the accident. In the paper, Dr. Wright and Queensland Mental Health writes he had a clean mental health bill. There was nothing wrong with him. But they were there in this divine intervention when it happened, especially when Kathy came. I was there myself. Kathy said the driver went in the abyss. She was the only one that made it, and the others were lost. She was the last one that came to goodbye. She said they came to say goodbye to Yan, and she said to Yan, the driver didn't come because he went in the abyss. She was the only one that made it, and the others were lost, getting one more opportunity. My brother didn't talk to me for 27 years. 27 years. He blamed me, and I didn't even know. Because when he flatlined, he said he was sent back from heaven to earth because of me. He was sent back from heaven to earth because of me. And I didn't even know, but our relationship ended from that day onwards, right? Okay, we didn't have the same relationship. We were barely in communication. And he turned on me in a way and just put up with me, and I couldn't work it out. I had no idea. I was never told. Sitting down for 6 hours, one of the most critical things that I want to share with you is that the 212 phenomenon was a natural selection, okay? And people went through horrible events that day, an unexplained aerial phenomenon, kind of like the boogeyman, the monster under the bed. Your mum and dad says, dream, go back to sleep, but it happens for a reason. And you have to revise your perception, go right back to your childhood, to these kind of events when you go through something like this. Unexplainable things, like an outside intervention, like principality in the power in the air, like something through the atmosphere you cannot explain. You can feel it, like the light bulb idea, the picture that tells you 1,000 words that cannot lie to you, that comes from out of the blue, a vortex of information with 7-fold wisdom and knowledge that we had no understanding of. Our natural organic molecules, our natural selection life, and it comes to you in a 3.5-year transformation. Things comes to you out of the blue for a massive transformation, that you cannot understand because you're in stress, you're in anxiety, and you don't know what's going on. But all of a sudden, you think outside the mind, and you go through a massive experience you've never had before in your life, and nothing in this world but prepared for you for. But DNA doesn't lie. So it doesn't matter what I say, DNA become the solid evidence, right? The transformation. I grew brand new arteries around my stents without taking the medication and fixed my arteries. Okay? They told me with a Neuralink and all the evidence for 8 months research that I'm one of a kind with every study done by the biggest think tank with the biggest mastermind reports, mental health research and DNA studies done to cure the human condition that's going to save humanity. As Jeremy Griffiths says, who wrote the book Freedom, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of life, my DNA, I'm one of the last human beings born on earth that can do every single thing that Christ can and more, according to Jeremy Griffiths and the top bowlers in the whole world. That's their words. I can do every single thing that Christ can and more, according to their documents and their research. And they tell me this, and then they tell me, you can fix your leg yourself, Kim. The legacy evidence that you were in fact paralyzed from your neck down, and you can fix your leg yourself, Kim. You've done all this yourself. And it's not what you think. And we've done big studies on this, Kim. Okay, we found people with DNA transformation, right, since 2012. Okay, we have a few other events that go further back like yourself. Okay, with these divine interventions, these kind of miracles. But the 212 phenomenon, we have people, right, selected around the world that went through a death experience or a dramatic event, a near-death experience through the unexplained era phenomenon 212. And we've got DNA studies, right, on a lot of people. Well, not a lot, Kim. In fact, it's a very few people. But we have DNA studies done from people around the world. Okay, we've been watching them. And you're one of a kind, and you're the most authentic DNA with the most divine intervention, the most divine power, and every single research done with the most powerful confirmation on earth, Kim. You are one of a kind. Kim, we have 190 people, right, who's also died and had a death experience and paralyzed from the neck down like you were. And 190 people got up and walked out. So another 190 people got up and walked out like you did. 190 people. Kim, we have 5,600 people who had a major heart attack with 3 stents fitted, who grew brand new arteries around and fixed their stents and fixed their arteries by themselves with a genetic memory and a genetic process with the ancestor tools in their DNA. 5,600, Kim, on record, that's gone through this like you did. 190 people paralyzed from that DNA like you were, and altered their DNA like you, Kim. Kim, we have the most powerful records on earth. We are leading the biological test worldwide in biology DNA. We are the biggest think tank in the world in charge of this. And we thought we'd drag you in here in this meeting to tell you something. We know you're one of a kind with the most powerful divine interventions, Kim. But you have experiences too with a few friends that you know. We know you know. Man, this blew my mind away because, let me tell you something. In the 212 phenomenon, I'm sitting down with 3 friends having dinner, about to have dinner on a Friday night, right? Oh, sorry, Tuesday or Wednesday night, I can't remember. Okay, it was March the 6th. Okay, I'm sitting down, right, and all of a sudden, I hear this voice coming from a dimensional field, right? Like it came through a tunnel, like outside this dimension. And it's the only way to explain this. A voice I've never heard before in my life and know nothing like it in my life before and ever since that day. I'm sitting down and all of a sudden it felt like the boogeyman, the monster under the bed coming to me, and like I shit myself immediately and I couldn't see anything. But this influence and this UAP phenomenon scared the living shit out of me like the boogeyman, the monster bed, just like a childhood. And man, like all of a sudden I hear a voice inside my mind coming from a tunnel, coming from my dementia field like I've never heard before in my life. But for some reason, I knew the other three could not hear it. I don't know why, but I just did. I just knew. And there's no way to explain this. And all of a sudden that voice says, "You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die." This voice was so powerful with authority and a voice so unbelievable. I've never heard a voice like this in my life. And it gives you chills up and down your spine like you wouldn't believe. It possessed me completely. I couldn't move a muscle. I was in shock. Yet I got up and walked backwards and forwards in my house. And I had no control. And my girlfriend, Chrissy, she's going, "Kim, are you all right? Kim, are you all right?" And I'm trying to say to her, "Hey, I don't know what's going on, man. Help me. I don't know what's going on, man. I'm freaking out. I'm seriously freaking out like I never freaked out before in my life. Nothing in the world has ever prepared me for anything like this. And man, I shit like I never shit before in my life. Never shit before in my life, right? And I've been through a lot in my life, being in the underground world, a drug lord, in prison for 10 years. Nothing in this world prepared me for something like this. I never heard of it before in my life. And then I'm totally possessed and I can't move a muscle while they're trying to talk to me. I'm looking into the ground. They told me after they could feel something demonic right through the air. They could feel it in the air. And they shit themselves. They were very fast to call paramedics, thank God. Thank God. I walked backwards and forwards in the house, and then I walked outside the house, across the lawn, across the road, and I walked up the street. Then I got pushed out of my vessel. And nothing in the world prepared me for anything like this. You know, I was clinically dead at 2 years old, and I was clinically dead at 18 years old with a drug overdose. And I remember walking around like a zombie for a week, but nothing in the world, and nothing ever heard of with people on drugs, with drug overdoses and death experiences, which I know plenty of. I know people's died 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times and never heard a story like this in my life. Never heard a story like this in my life. Nothing in the world prepared me for this. I'm walking up the street, I get pushed out of my vessel, and I'm watching my own vessel walk away. I'm watching my own body walk away, my own vessel, right? And I can't explain this any other way. I go back in my body like I had no control. Then pushed out a second time. And then I go back in again. Now, I can tell you a million stories here in the different ways. And no matter what I tell you, you cannot understand. But I go through a massive event and I also drop. Okay, I take my vessel back, I drop dead. Kim, my personality, my character, my mentality, my personality, he literally dies. The person I always was, trapped in my mind with amnesia, okay, I start to break up and wake up from amnesia and start to get an outside influence, right, with dimensional thinking, remote viewing, mental telepathy, ESP, deja vu to predict the future, prevent what's going to happen, and it comes to you out of the blue, and I'm starting to go through this, and I don't know what's going on, and I can't explain it to people, but you know, my family and friends, they couldn't understand who I was anymore because I was different. I was totally different, right? And I thought, what's wrong with these people? And I realized they didn't know. They had no idea. They thought I was on drugs and accused me of being on drugs because they couldn't recognize who I was anymore. I altered that much and I couldn't see it with my own basic common sense. And things happened that were so remarkable you wouldn't believe it. As I'm going through this massive transformation you cannot explain in a way you really understand unless you go through it yourself, I run into an old friend, okay? A friend that I only knew a little bit, that I met a few times. And she was a beautiful person. I remember meeting this person, right? And me and her just clicked, right, spiritually. And we had a lot of the same things on the same page and saw things the same way, okay? But I didn't know something, right? Okay, I'm going through this transformation and she moved Okay, she moved over 100 kilometers away from Brisbane, away from the crowd. And she was a junkie on meth. Okay, she was taking meth. But she was a really, really good person, right? She was a single mother with 2 kids that had gone for a bad relationship. And she was, you know, in the home turf area, and she moved to the North Coast. And I didn't know what happened to her. And one day something happened, and she was on Facebook, right? She was on Facebook. And the funny thing is that I'm not really on, I didn't have a smartphone. I had a friend's phone, and a few friends were on Facebook, and they said, oh, she's on here. Oh, that's interesting. So I spoke to her on Facebook on a friend's phone, because I didn't have a smartphone on Facebook. And I only spoke to her once, and then I spoke to her later when I got a smartphone later and Facebook. But listen to this. This is a few months later, right? This is a fair few months later. And I didn't know what I was going through at the time with the 212 phenomenon. If you read about the 212 phenomenon, they say it's a Mayan calendar with ancestry, spirituality, right? Celestial ancestral beings. That's what a lot of people are saying. But let me tell you something. No one's got any experience in this. If there's one thing I know, you can listen and read to people who talk shit all day on social media platform, but these people have no fucking idea. 99.99999% of people haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about. They're trapped in their mind with mentality the same way I was, and limited can only use 7 to 15% of their brain with amnesia worldwide in a massive global delusional state. And they've never woken up amnesia in the reincarnation trap or been naturally selected like this. Because believe me, I learned something about life very powerful I need you to pay attention to. This friend of mine went through exactly the same event that I did. Identically the same. She was flatlining, a drug overdose, pushed out of a vessel, watched her own vessel, walked away, and exactly the same voice came into her mind and told her she was going to die, going to die, going to die, going to die, until she did. And I did the same thing. That voice did not stop for 5, 6, 7 minutes until it dropped. At least 3 or 4 minutes. Never stopped until it dropped. And this influence on my reality, she had the identical influence. When we spoke, she mentioned another guy that I only knew a little bit about. I knew the crowd he was in. She said, you talked to him. She said, I talked to him. He had the identical event that I had. Man, I got chills up and down my spine like you would never dream about. Right? But let me tell you something. I couldn't get a confirmation from anybody anywhere about an event like this, so I felt really stupid. I could not talk to anyone about this. I had to keep my mouth shut. People thought I was crazy, having a dream on drugs, so I had to keep my mouth shut. And when she told me she flatlined and the same thing happened to her, wow, it was a confirmation I was not alone. And yet at the same time, very chilling. But that's the mindset we're in, right? We're controlled by stress, fear, and anxiety, delusional paranoia, stress, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia all over the world. Our body sends corruption illusion at the daytime and can only be at nighttime, and so was mine, like everybody else. But I went through a transformation, and now my genetic memory works 24 hours a day clockwise, because I went from anti-clockwise to clockwise. Kim died, and I crossed over into my primordial state. And now my primordial state controls my vision from the outside in instead of the inside out. And that's the truth. And I'm bringing a lot of information about this. You're not qualified to judge me unless you go through this, because you can only use 7 to 10% of your brain in over 99%. And the highest IQ people in the world can only use 15% of brain. We can use 100% with the most powerful confirmation on earth in the biggest study ever done. And I'm not alone. Our genetic process repairs and walks out of the hospital with miracles like this, and I'm not the only one. Everyone else speaks shit or talk no action, and you have to be careful with that, because the whole world's artificial and trapped in their mind with delusional parasitosis worldwide and do not know what they do. God developed the most powerful confirmation on earth with the most powerful study and DNA study. The most powerful confirmation on earth. Now, every event that I've created or been created with comes with the most powerful confirmation on earth. Divine intervention. 6 international events. Okay, well, I'm not on one camera on CCTV, but every passenger is through border security. I'm not. But I'm on CCTV outside and confirmed by JBs and confirmed the most powerful confirmation on earth. The world's biggest car chase, 2014, Ipswich courtroom, like you've never seen before in your life on CCTV, and they couldn't deal with it. The world's biggest car chase for 4 months without one accident and one person hurt, with helicopters, fatal fortune, and task force maxima. I couldn't be stopped for 4 months with CCTV, and they couldn't deal with in the court, and they were gobsmacked and speechless with the most powerful confirmation on earth. Now, I'm telling you, it's not my fault. It's an outside influence, okay, that controls reality. And I didn't even know. I thought I must be the luckiest person in the world. But no, I had an outside influence on my reality that protected me in ways that you do not know. And I didn't know. Not until now. They told me, Kim, stand up, you can fix your leg yourself. We can confirm you're paralyzed from the neck down, and you got up and walked out yourself. But when your son walked in, you put your arm around his shoulder, and you've been living on your leg for 3.5 years. So go back to that moment and do it yourself, because you can, Kim. But you don't have faith. Real faith in your own biological instincts with a placebo effect, right? Because we're all anti-clockwise. We know that in the biggest study ever done. Kim, you're one of the largest human beings found on earth that can do every single thing that Christ can and more. So you can obviously fix it yourself. You just don't know. You don't have enough faith in yourself. But you were selected like this with many others. And we have the DNA to back it up. We know. But 99% of people don't know, Kim, and they don't care. And we know the world is anti-clockwise and extremely nefarious without a care factor, Kim. We know. We know governments, authorities don't care. We know the system doesn't care. We know religious, political behaviour, New Age doesn't care. They're trapped in their own mentality and only believe in their own truth and come to their own conclusion with reasoning on reversible engineering. With atheism, evolution, mutation, and artificial intelligence. And they're trapped, Kim, majority trapped beyond the point of return, as declared by demographics worldwide. Beyond the point of return, majority. Trapped in their mind, in a personality mentality, and they're not spirituality, and I know that. I was chosen for this, and I didn't know. I had no idea. But God developed the most powerful confirmation on earth that God does exist with evidence, right? Proven with border security in one of the most powerful events ever recorded in modern history. And it's the truth. And I'm not responsible. God developed this. If you look at my videos, I promise you there's no other human being on earth like me, developed like me. Not one. And if you look at my history and 5 biblical signs land on my date of birth, I didn't even know. I had no idea. Me and Marion went through the 212 phenomenon, and we were selected like this, and we went through massive transformation. Didn't we, Marion? Because Marion was chosen as well. And I didn't know till I met Marion that she too was chosen the 212 phenomenon. I spoke to the third guy, the one that she knew, exactly the same event. I went to LA, right? LA in 2016 to 2017. When I was there for 4 months, I ran into a guy on the streets, right? He was begging for money. He was a nice guy. And he was taking care of others that was homeless. And he was homeless. And he was taking meth as well. All 3 were on meth. All 3 were on meth. The most powerful truth serum that changes your perception. And I find that astonishing. That they were all on meth. And he had the identical event in LA. But I was the first person he spoke to that had the same event, and he thought it was an isolated event until he met me and we spoke about it. We were talking, I said, what put you here like this, brother? We were just having a conversation, right? I walked into a weed shop and buying some weed, and then he walked out and I gave him a bit of money when he was begging for money. And he's a really nice guy. And we had a little conversation and he told me he was on meth, but he's backed off and changed his whole life since something happened in 2012 when he was clinically dead. I said, you clinically died in 2012? So did I, man. I went for a massive transformation myself. and changed my whole life from that day. And I don't know what the fuck was going on, but I'm not the only one. What happened to you in 212, brother? And many told me the exact same event. And good boy, I had chills up and down my spine when I heard the same story from this guy in LA. That was 3 more people, including myself. That was 4 people. When I was selected like this and went for a massive transformation with many events, I write the book that unfolds with events, right, that become solid events. I predict the future with deja vu, okay, with the most powerful confirmation and testimony of Reborn. Believe me, I know exactly what's going on more than anyone else, more than anybody else. We teach the transformation, the crossover, with a great transformation in DNA, right, with the most powerful confirmation on earth, because I know how to bring people through this. The great transformation, the great resurrection, the crossover, right? Not too many people do. We teach the resurrection and protect the elect. When I came here to social media platform in 2020, for the first time, okay, to save people with the transformation and the crossover that we teach every day, and our followers with their testimonies are going through this. With the book Freedom by Jeremy gives us to be the Holy Grail of life, and we're not breathing the Holy Breath of life, hailed by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of life and the Holy Breath of life, and the most powerful merge in human history, the cure of the human condition that's going to save humanity. And we can all do what Christ can more in our own genetic memory with the genetic process. So we cross people over into the Christ image, into the Father's image, to do every single thing that Christ can and more with the most powerful confirmation on earth and the most powerful declaration ever made with natural selection and natural order. So you got to use your natural selection and natural order. That's why we put you through this with a 40-day fast like Christ went through a death experience. We face you with a death experience to take you out of your vessel with the most powerful death experience, right, without dying. But you'll get it, and you'll go through a transformation when you're innocent, and we pull you out of your shell from your personality and take you to the light zone that Plato describes in 15 books, and Jeremy gives it to us perfectly. But listen to me. Most people will not go through this because they're beyond the point of return and live in denial. You were declared in post-human states on my birthday, 1999, 27 September. Okay, the last human being born on earth was 1960. Okay, and it's me and every study done, believe it or not, on the same date of birth. The same date on the end of your climate clock with the 7-year lay. 2,000 years when Christ was baptized with John to the day. 27 September 227. Kim Clement predicted 2:13 of 227 and nearly fainted on the stage with a UAP unexplained area phenomenon. And you can see that in that video. But I promise you that video in 2013 was an event that happened in 2012, late 2012, because I heard the video. The event he went through, right? The video on YouTube is 2:13, where it predicts 2:27. But the actual date it happened in this event was, in fact, 2012. Laurie Ladd, she was a junkie as well and had a death experience as well and started a platform up, Laurie Ladd. Okay? She went through exactly the same phenomenon in 2012. Jonathan Cahn, who wrote the book, The Return of the Gods, The Harvest, and The Dragon Prophecy, he was selected like this as well, with a massive divine intervention and a death experience. So was Tom Thorne, who wrote Sea Guys 225. He went for a massive transformation through the same experience. The vision that he saw, and he speaks about Apophis with deja vu as he was there in a panoramic view. He means remote viewing in real life in deja vu, where he steps into the future. Because I went through the same thing and saw exactly the same thing that he saw, and the same as Kim Clement saw. I've seen all the visions they talk about. I know all the elect that are chosen with these phenomenons. Todd White, a junkie on the street. Bad drug deal goes wrong. He's shot in the chest several times, but the bullets go straight through him. He has a massive divine intervention and don't die. Jonathan Cahn rode over a railway line, got hit by a train, should have been dead. Never had a scratch. The same thing. How do you explain this? How do you explain this? These are the people naturally selected. But they're all different. One man in the Bible will come with the great resurrection, protect the elect, and know every single thing that's going on in the world. And the most powerful confirmation on earth and the most powerful biblical prophecies will land on his date of birth. And he'll be the only one that comes with the wedding and the bride on mainstream media, the two witnesses. It'll start with a man and woman, it'll finish man and woman. And you know what that is? The two pillars of soul. Lilu, the fifth element. The fifth element is 84. Keanu Reeves is the resurrection from the Matrix documentary, 27. The two pillars of soul. Okay? And that's Christ and Mary, both ascended in body and soul. Mary is the mother of creation. The fifth element, the perfect element, 84. And that's Marin. Marin came from heaven to earth, and her mother was abducted by UAP, unexplained aerial phenomenon, or UFO, abducted with amnesia, and Marin came from heaven to earth, and she's extremely different. And she's Lilu, voltage, unreliability, right, in her aura, and she saps people in ways you do not understand because you can't understand Marin. Nobody can. Nobody can understand Marin. They think she needs a team. No, she doesn't. They don't understand her biological system and the transformation she's gone through. They cannot understand Marin. Her family can't understand her. The doctors can't understand her. No one can understand me in my family and my doctors neither. They can't understand. Which means they're all limited with all their science, all their religious, political behavior, and all their New Age cults, and it means nothing in this world works because they're all lost, are gobsmacked and speechless, and they don't understand what's happening to us. Nor did we. We had no idea at all. But I can promise you this. There is no other human being on earth like me with the most powerful confirmation and biblical science that land on my date of birth. We teach the genuine resurrection, the crossover, because Christ developed us to do this. Listen to Philip Keel's testimony yesterday on our platforms. Go to the witness page in Street Wisdom Bible and listen to Philip Keel. You'll see he gets taken out to the light of the tunnel, and me and Marin, the two witnesses, are there to save him. God's using our vessels to save people all over the world. He's not the only one. It's happening to people all over the world, and we're being used, our vessels, right, through the light of the inner tunnel where people see us and get the most powerful divine intervention and the most powerful confirmation on earth. God developed this, and no one is qualified to tell the truth. Trust me. Do not listen to people across the world unless they can tell you about the great resurrection and the rebirth and the crossover back in your primordial state where you can do what Christ can more with DNA, the book of life. DNA is the book of life, guys. And the mind doesn't know what's going on. We were put through this process with the transformation so we know what's going on. So we know what's going on. The crossover, the rebirth, the natural selection. We're saved, guys, and we're saved into a new dimension, a new era to preserve DNA for 1,000 years in the Christ image. And we already gone through the judgment, man. That's what it's all about. It's a judgment. So we're trying to save every human being on earth with a crossover through the rebirth. And trust me, this is real on DNA. This is the most powerful confirmation. Jeremy Griffiths calls it the World Transformation Movement. The DNA transformation, man. They know what they're talking about with the book Freedom, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of life, the cure of every single thing we suffer from. No more pain, stress, and fear in a time where time sets your life preserves. No more stress and anxiety. No more confusion. No more frustration. No more delusion. No more paranoia. Now tell me, who doesn't want that? Go through this transformation and believe me, this is the liberation, all right? This is the new era. This is creating heaven and earth. And we know the future through deja vu, and we see the future with 10 times more fruit, 10 times more nutritious value, 10 times more love, 10 times more clarification, 10 times more everything. And it's going to be the greatest time to be alive, guys. The most beautiful time to be alive. Do not be trapped in your mind because the placebo effect in here is anti-clockwise. Get out of your mind and you go through a transformation with the most powerful divine intervention, the most powerful confirmation, the most powerful clarification, and the most powerful love you've ever felt in your life. Go back to your childhood, back to your innocence, and believe me, I will take you through this, right? Through the divine intervention where you get chosen. You go through a transformation. You go through a selection. You get chosen like this. When you create the relationship is a quantum mechanics of the universal codependent power. It's a two-way street. Divine power to command nature. The divine power to command nature so that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Divine power to command nature is the mother and the father. The two candlesticks, the two olive trees, the two witnesses. It will start with a man and woman, and it'll finish with the man and woman with the two pillars of soul. The soul-mate relationships. And believe me, when you're tapped into this, wow, who doesn't want some of this? It is the most unbelievable time to be alive. And Christ, I have his genetic memory, I have his genetic process, and I know the plan he is waiting for us, the kingdom. And oh boy, you heard about people dying and they don't want to come back? They get the most powerful clarification, and all they feel is unconditional love with that kind of relationship. Pure love pouring all over them, and they don't want to come back. Mate, that's what it's all about. We're creating heaven and earth to have this for 1,000 years. This is the kingdom. This is what God has waiting for us. This is what Christ said. I have a kingdom waiting for you. And guys, tell me, who doesn't want that? You're an idiot if you don't want that. You have to go back to naturalism. You have to get out of your vessel. You have to go back into primordial state. In your celestial primordial state and control your vessel from the outside in. It's not about flesh and blood, it's about principality and the power in the air. When you get it, trust me, you can't go wrong. You wake up from amnesia and the reincarnation trap, and oh boy, it's one hell of an experience. But when you go through this, you'll never get deceived again. You'll never go back in your vessel. You'll never be trapped in the mind ever again. Freedom beyond your comprehension you only ever dreamt about. And you go through a beautiful transformation your mind can't understand. But listen, go deep with When I'm Breathing and the book Freedom. Okay? The book Freedom on audio, and go deep with When I'm Breathing, and I'll take you there through the euphoria of ecstasy. You'll develop your own biological system with a 40-day fast and a crossover. Take zinc, iron, magnesium, drink lots of liquid, but don't eat for 40 days and get off screens. Isolate yourself. Don't communicate with people. Don't be judgmental and competitive in any way, shape or form. Isolate. Mind your own business for 40 days and don't eat. Maybe a few more days. Create the relationship with When I'm Breathing program and go deep with oxygen that resets your biological clock in the central nervous system with the holy breath of life and recreates a sacred secretion with the third eye, your sixth sense. All right, close your eyes and meditate. He's won a Nobel Prize without a credential. He has 27 world records for superhuman abilities and 27 times more powerful immunity system. So we have these abilities to alter our DNA, and he was chosen without a credential, the holy breath of life. And the book Freedom by Jeremy Givers, he was chosen. He wrote the book, A Speech in 2003, when we declared post-human states that the world's crazy, and we didn't believe in it. We were speech in denial. Well, that's why God had to do this in 2012 and put us through this transformation, because the world's crazy in a massive global delusion state. And only the elect will not be deceived. But only the witness will come with the resurrection and protect the elect, because he's the only one that knows. And trust me, I did not know, and I went through the shock of my life and through the most powerful transformation you can ever believe in, most powerful divine intervention, most powerful miracles, and the most powerful signs, biblical signs, prophecies that all land on my date of birth, 27 Holy Spirit divine light, and scales for justice. In 5 powerful declarations, the Holy Spirit divine light, book Revelation 27, and justice, the scales for justice, and the 2 pillars of soul. It will start with a man woman and it'll finish man woman, because it's about a relationship. It's about family values. It's about the relationship. It's about righteousness. It's about loyalty, honor, respect, moments, inspiration, and encouragement. It's about unconditional love. The meaning of life is unconditional love. To be selfless and to sacrifice everything for your children. Your innocent children. Go back into Bemile motor skills. Go back in your innocent. Cross over and trust me. You'll end up receiving the most powerful divine intervention through natural selection and natural order. But you have to dedicate, you have to have the thirst to cross over, to go through the rebirth, the crossover. You have to dedicate because your mind traps you. Your mind's your own worst enemy. Plays tricks and games and you become your own prison, your own warden in your mind. You don't even know. Your critical thinking tells you do it, and don't do it. It's only a personality. Consciousness is only a middle process, illusion, imagination. And the conscious is unaware of the outside influence that controls your reality when you can only 7 to 15% of your brain in your consciousness. Then your consciousness doesn't work because it's only mentality, not spirituality. Cross over and think outside the mind, like Christ said, and you can do what I can and more. And trust me, you can. But you need to get out of your mind and out of your personality and out of your mentality. You have to cross over into your celestial primordial state to think instinctively outside the mind, as I told you in the Matrix documentary. Those who think instinctively will tune out program. The Bible tells you this. Jeremy Gibbs tells you this. Winop at Oxford University tells you this. Okay, we were chosen. Okay, we think outside the mind with natural organic motor skills, and God developed this with the most powerful confirmation on earth, the most powerful divine intervention, and the most powerful merge in human history on the same page. DNA, the book of life, the Holy Grail of life. We not be the program, the Holy Bread of life. The book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbs, the Holy Grail of life. The most powerful documents and information and DNA ever developed on earth in modern history. We can do what Christ can and more. Do not listen to anyone else. Do not follow anyone else, because everybody's just out to entertain themselves about their own opinions and they don't care. That's how they write all their books, do all their movies for propaganda, right, for information, right, for their entertainment. That's all they care about. It's entertainment and their own opinions. Self-centered people trapped in their mind worldwide do not know what they do. They don't know what they're doing. Listen to me. You want to be in the Father's image? You want to be saved? We save every soul that goes through this. Believe me, we save every soul from their own personality and their own mentality without realizing it. That's why Christ went fasting for 40 days to fight the demon within himself, in here in the skull. John explains that in Revelation. 40 days you face your own demons in the skull and break free through a transformation. And you go through a transformation that's so far beyond the mind you do not understand. The mind's a problem. The mind don't understand. So you break free from your mindset. You break free from the mentality, right? And you break free from amnesia. And you start to use a different process you've never had before in your life. The picture that comes from out of the blue. The picture that tells you 1,000 words can lie to you. Like you see in the movie Limitless, a vortex of information with sevenfold wisdom knowledge. We're going into a new timeline, guys, a crossover in a new timeline of sevenfold wisdom knowledge, written in the book of Enoch, written in the oldest Bibles in the world, Ethiopian Bible, and it's a Mayan calendar. It's ancestry, genetic tools, and ancestry tools. It's our ancestors, celestial primordial beings that controls our vessels. That's why the Bible says, you will not know who I am. But I'll come from the cave of prison with the tooth of Moses, with fire coming out in raggedy clothes, like a thief in the knife, with shining armor. They found my DNA in prison in 2008. Mate, you can't get better than that. I didn't know. I had no idea. But trust me, you go through this, you'll find out. You'll find out if you listen to my followers. 5 years people have been coming to me for visions and dreams and said to me, people have been sent back from heaven to earth because of me. People have brought back to light because of me. And it's not my fault. God developed this way. But right now you can see every testimony from all my followers. When they go through this, they see me and Marin, the two witnesses at the end of the tunnel. that God does in fact use our vessels. And it blows my mind away how things work, because my mind don't know. We don't know. We don't know any better. God developed this. He controls what's going on. And you have to have a leap of faith, man. And that day in 2016, I got up and fixed my leg myself like this. When I was told this, I fixed my leg like that. And it became the most powerful confirmation, especially to myself, that I can do this myself. And people throw stones at you, right, and make you forget what you can do. Trap you in your mind with their self-centered behavior and their cognitive behavior, and you forget what you can do. And we'll forget what we've done and what we can do. Well, I'm telling you, I got up and fixed my leg myself, and I was paralyzed, my neck down, right? Died for 23 minutes, paralyzed, got up and walked out myself. And I fixed my leg myself that day. And that becomes the most powerful combination. I can now do this deliberately, right, with absolute faith that God developed us to do what He can do and more, like this. To heal yourself, to heal others. And that's what God said. Kim, you will heal like no one else, and you will heal Marin, and you will heal thousands of people over the earth when they go through this. We have that confirmation now. People healing all over the earth, going through this. Don't be deceived with the voice in your mind, guys. Trust me. Don't be deceived with your own mentality and your own personality, because you do not know what you're missing out on. 10 times more love, 10 times more power, 10 times more everything. Wow. Tell me, you don't want some of that? You'd be an idiot if you didn't. You'd be possessed, man. What would possess you not to have this? What would possess your mind not to have this? Stop and think about that, and think outside the mind, so you're not possessed by your own mindset anymore. Your mentality, right, is obsessing you and possessing you with addictions you're not aware of. With unnatural selection. So 40 days you stop your unnatural selection and go into natural selection. And through this process, with We're Not Breathing and the book Freedom, that takes you through this, with the most powerful confirmation and DNA to back it up. The great transformation. As Jeremy Givers says on YouTube, the great transformation. In DNA, people do not know and live in guilt and shame and denial. Why would they live in denial when this is available to us? Because they're possessed, man, beyond the point of return. And that's the obvious. Their mind possesses them that much, they haven't got a care factor. They can't feel the truth. We can feel the truth. 10 times more powerful than anyone else in the world can. And that's why we're selected all this, because we feel the truth. We don't let the mind control us. We allow the principality and the power and the air controls. We give consent to the most positive feels, okay, and the power, divine power to command nature. And that's the truth, guys. That's the real truth that will set you free.